I know Hallelujah isn't actually a Christmas song, but it has that cozy, haunting vibe that sounds like a winter's night and belongs by a fire. People like hearing songs that sound like something they've heard before, that's reminiscent of their childhood and of what their parents listened to. Teenage Dream was the hardest breakup for me. I love shoes. I am a shoe fanatic. I love my Giuseppe Zanottis, he is my favorite. I have them in every color. Other than shoes, it's important to have a great black leather jacket. When my parents were like, "We're going to the Northwest," I thought, "You've got to be kidding me." I was so depressed. The cold weather really did not agree with me. When I moved back down to LA, at 16, I felt like it was home, it was where I belonged. I was born in Northern California and lived there until I was about 8 years old. Then my parents moved me up to Seattle. I lived there from ages 8 to 16. When I was a California kid, I remember running around in my bathing suit and barefoot all the time and getting a suntan. I was always super musical. So my parents recognized that and put me in choirs, piano lessons, and all that. When I moved to Seattle in 4th grade, I joined the Seattle Girls Choir. It's a world-class choir, and we competed, toured Europe, and went and sang at the Vatican, so it was a really awesome experience to have that young. I started writing my own songs from the time I was a little kid. I would write my own lyrics to other people's songs that I heard on the radio and take whatever song and make it about fairies and angels, whatever little girls sing about. I like to think of myself as the people's pop star a little bit. I respect Lady Gaga so much, and I love what she does, but she has this kind of mysterious, out-of-reach thing. I'm just not that. As much as I'd love to have that sort of mystique, I think I'm kind of an open book. I've been singing since I could talk, pretty much. My dad was really musical and taught me how to sing harmonies and got me a karaoke machine with tape decks. I've always had a teenage thread running through my music. I saw Tina Turner do Proud Mary on TV, and it was so electrifying and such a unique experience. I remember crying out of excitement, and I knew that I wanted to be a performer and make people feel excited and moved, and that's why I gravitated towards it. There are some artists that don't like working with other females, which is fine. They have their own thing. I personally love being surrounded by other females. If I know I will be working with someone and they are not keen with writing with a girl, I like to be non-threatening and cool so they will trust me. It's a thought process of who work and how I want to present myself. I think what it means to be an American girl, and what I wrote the song about, is our freedoms. The idea that we as Americans can be what we want to be and say what we want to say and that we take it for granted. Teenage Dream was the most difficult song I've ever been a part of. We wrote 5 different versions of it. We couldn't get the lyrics right. Max Martin and Dr. Luke wrote most of the melody, and then Katy Perry and I were responsible for getting the lyrics right. For Dynamite, Max and Luke went to dinner and left me with a melody, and then I put it together. When I think about Since You've Been Gone, I think the first thing that comes to mind is Livin' on a Prayer. They're kind of like sisters, a little bit. And Call Me Maybe was so wildly original, and so quirky, and so satisfying. I throw my hand up in the air sometimes is when you don't get your way, when you give up, and you're handing it over. I realize there are so many steps from getting a deal to having a hit. When I get an artistic itch, I have to scratch it. I've had a lot of successes as a songwriter, and I really have nothing to prove in that arena, so I'm just excited about the next challenge of pursuing this artist thing. It's great to just reach out and give something to the fans when they're hungry for it. I was writing songs as a kid about leprechauns and Catwoman and teapots, whatever it is that little girls want to sing about. The first song I wrote was called Kitten. In my mind, I imagined LA to be skyscrapers on the beach. Of course, that's not what it actually looks like. And growing up watching Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, I always had an obsession with LA. And California in general. I'm kind of famous for my barbecues. I'm always hosting parties. After struggling for so long in the industry and writing so many failed songs and hearing no for so long, I'm so grateful every time I hear a song that I was a part of on the radio. When I'm writing for other people, I have to play it safe. When I'm dealing with Britney Spears and Katy Perry, these massive brands, like, really, very Coca-Cola, you know what I mean? There are certain kinds of standards. There are risks you can take, and there's risks that you don't. And I think I'm interested in taking a little more risk in my own music. I wish I wrote Don't Speak by No Doubt. I mean, that is a classic heartbreak song, it gets me every time. When I write for myself, I think about myself and draw from my own experience. I have a notebook of concepts. There are titles everywhere if you are looking for them. I pull from them. There is a secret list that I keep for myself about what I want to sing about, and those are the ones I know I am not going to give up for someone else. My number one is Johnny Depp. Ever since Cry Baby, he had my heart. I've always had a teenage thread running through my music. On my first album, I had a song called Confessions of a Teenage Girl. It's about using your feminine wealth to get what you want. There's a lot of little Bonnie-isms in Teenage Dream that I was hoping to keep for myself. I like big, soaring melodies and fun, splashy lyrics. Maybe like what Blondie would do in 2013. A line has to have a certain number of syllables, and the next line has to be its mirror image. A lot of times, if you're not getting inspiration right away, we'll listen to stuff to get inspired. The original title was Waking Up Diagonal. It's the first line of the song. I just thought it was more interesting than I Don't Care, which is such a boring title to me. When I hear that song, it breaks my heart a little bit because it's my story. I wanted to make a video for the holidays, but none of the traditional holiday songs were moving me. I have been doing some writing on the side a little bit with artists that I'm really excited about, kind of more up and coming people, but I'm focusing more on my own project. It's a full-time job being an artist. I was discovered out of nowhere. I didn't have family that was in the industry. I didn't know anyone in LA. I didn't have any reason to have been discovered. Nowadays, you have YouTube, and people are scouting more, but I really was plucked out of obscurity. I always had the fantasy of Hollywood and Los Angeles and the beach, not realizing that Hollywood was so very far from the beach. I thought back to my middle school experience of having slumber parties and watching Romeo Juliet and staring at Leo and thinking about my first kiss and what I wanted it to be like. And when you have your first real love, it's an epiphany, you know? It's like a whole new world. I feel like a lot of pop singers hurt themselves if they don't have the proper training. One thing I'd tell an up-and-coming singer is to never rely on other people for anything. The more self-sufficient you can be, the better off you'll be. I'm visually stimulated, so I watch TV, movies, even Pinterest. A song could come from something as simple as being words splashed across a billboard or changing everyday turns of phrases. I was invincible. I believed all my problems were gone and I finally made it, that LA was my answer to everything. I had never really co-written. I thought it was weak or something if I needed to collaborate. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.